Hello, good afternoon or morning, whenever you're watching this. Today's lesson starts our review for our Try-To final. On our Try-To final, we are going to be testing some skills from Try-1. So today we're going to go back and practice some inequality stuff, and then we're going to also practice some evaluating functions. So I'm going to model two inequality problems. I'm going to model one of these function problems and then one of these, and then the rest are for you to try. Okay, so when I say solve the inequality for x, we solve it the exact same way we would solve it if it were an equation. Literally nothing is different, it's just the fact that it's an inequality sign. The steps we use to solve it is exactly the same. So if I want to get x by itself, I'm going to start by subtracting 3 on both sides. We get 2x is greater than or equal to 12. That's 2 times x, so we divide both sides by 2. And we get x is greater than or equal to 6. So that is my final answer for that one. Next one is like a step up. So this is what we've been doing with substitution when we have variables on both sides. Okay, so when we have variables on both sides, something that needs to be remembered is move the smaller variable first. It keeps things positive if we move the smaller one first. So between 2 and negative x, that one is smaller. So we're going to start by adding x to both sides. 2x plus x gives me 3 total x's. And then again, two-step equation, I want x, so I'm going to start by subtracting 3 on both sides. We get 3x is greater than or equal to 12. Divide both sides by 3. And we get x is greater than or equal to 12 divided by 3 is 4. And voila, we are done. Okay, so key things again. Move the smaller x value to the other side first. Solve it like you would an equation. And then when you write your final answer, again, this is an inequality. If you see an inequality sign, best believe that's what I should see in your final answer or in the answer choice that you circle. This is not an equation, so there is no equal sign here. I need to see the inequality, otherwise you will get the answer wrong. So if it's an inequality sign, there should be an inequality in your answer. Okay, so for this one, hint, hint, 6x, 2x, 2x is smaller, so you're starting by subtracting that to the other side. Okay, we'll do those in a minute. I'm going to model this one now. So it says evaluate the function. We have f of x equals 3x plus 1, find f of negative 5. So for these, what we want to remember is that when I say f of negative 5, that means when x is negative 5. So I'm going to take the negative 5. I know what x is, so we're going to plug it in for x. So we're going to just write 3. We're going to plug in that negative 5 for x. Plus 1. That's negative 15 plus 1, which equals negative 14. So we would say f of negative 5. That means my function, my equation, when I plug in negative 5, equals negative 14. And that's my final answer. So again, what find f of negative 5 means find out what your function equals when we plug in negative 5. So we plug in negative 5, and then we say, well, f of negative 5, that equals negative 14. Okay. When you do these two, I have the first ones kind of color coordinated, so you can see the red 2 will go in for the red x, and the 1 will go in for x here. I will give you a little hint. Remember, your final answer should be f of 2 equals something. This one should be g of 1 equals whatever you get for your answer. Okay, so now that we, talked about what it means to evaluate a function again, we're just plugging in whatever number it tells us and figuring out what it equals. Let's ramp it up a little bit and look at this higher leverage problem. So we have given this function, 3x plus 2, what is correct? So here's my function. That's my equation I'm using. This says if we plug in 0, I should get 5. This says if we plug in 2, that my equation should equal and give me 8. This says if I plug in 3, I should get out 13. So what we're going to do is go through and plug in each one and see which one is correct. So the first one tells me to plug in 0. Three times 0 is 0. And that equals 2. So this told me f of 0 equals 5. That's incorrect. F of 0, my function, when I plug in 0, equals 2. So that's not the answer. So now I'm going to use the next one, and I'm going to plug in 2 and see if I get out an 8. And I get 6 plus 2, and that does equal 8. So when we plug 2 into my equation, my function gives me an 8. So this one is correct. When we plug in 2, we get out an 8. And let's just double check that last one here. This one was the correct one, so this should be wrong. Let's just go ahead and make sure that. So this says 3. My function, when I plug in 3, should equal 13. And we get 9 plus 2, and that equals 11. So this one is also incorrect. This says when I plug in 3, I get out 13. I plug in 3 and I get out 11. So that one is wrong as well. And that's all. That's all the work for this lesson. So again, for inequalities, solve it the same way as equations. Move your smaller x first. Final answer should have an inequality sign, not an equal sign. Functions. If I say evaluate the functions, that means when x is negative 5, plug in negative 5, tell me what you get. And then the last one, given the function which is correct, again, it's if you plug in 0, this is what you should get out. If you plug in 2, this is what you should get out. So you're testing them and seeing if they're correct or incorrect and circling the correct answer. Okay. You have several problems here to try, and then you have the answer key to check your work, and then you must complete the mastery check after as well, and send me a message when you're done. Have a lovely day.